No Russian. Cliffhanger. The rooftops of Rio de Janeiro. Breaching the oil tanker. Burger Town. Those aren't just the highlights of Modern Warfare 2's campaign. Those are some of the all-time best Call of Duty moments. They just happen to be from one campaign. It's like a greatest hits album. Not only that, but it introduced Ghost, who's like the Mickey Mouse of Call of Duty. If you ask me, the yearly releases since 2003 make it easy to forget how massive this game was. The year was 2009. Most of us had 360s, talked on these, and voice parties sounded like this. After two incredible industry-shaking games, MW2 was probably the first pre-order for a lot of gamers. No doubt about it, it was a heavy hitter. But how does it hold up today, and more importantly, how's the remaster? Well, the remaster doesn't have multiplayer, or Spec Ops. On top of that, I've seen boatloads of comments complaining about how it looks virtually the same graphics-wise, but since this game was a big part of my childhood, and I was feeling nostalgic, I bought it anyway. My first thoughts upon playing the remaster were, doesn't really seem they changed the graphics all that much, kinda just feels like they bumped the resolution a little bit. Well, actually, the lighting does look a little better, but I did play on 360, and this is probably a PC port. But as it turns out, my brain sucks and so does my memory. There's some genuinely interesting things about this remaster. I'm gonna compare it against the original PC version, but first I want to share a way you can kill some time in quarantine while telling you about today's sponsor. Everything I'm getting from this is going to charity, so I want to give a huge thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. There's a bunch of different ways to play this game, but if you ask me, it's all about collecting champions and strengthening them. I've even got a system. I've been battling my way through dungeons, killing the bosses, winning loot. Then when I find a boss stronger than me, I use the loot I won to toughen up my champions and go at it again. When I make a champion strong enough, I test him out against other players in the PvP arena. And if a champion isn't strong enough, well, they get sacrificed. They've also just released their Battle Pass. You can earn rewards like new epic and legendary champions through daily and weekly challenges. So what are you waiting for? If you head to the link in the description, Raid is giving new players 100,000 silver, 50 gems, 1 energy refill, and 1 free champion, the Executioner. And all that treasure would be waiting for you here. You can even find me in the game under MassiveG. Good luck. I'm gonna hold off showing the original MW2 for a few more seconds because this remaster is best appreciated without having recently seen or played the OG MW2, with bonus points if you played it back in 09 on release. I realize that's pretty specific, but this is a remaster of a relatively recent game, which makes it a special case. The outstanding Resident Evil remasters benefit from the 21-year gap from their respective PS1 games and the modern incarnations. That enormous gap of time and technology necessitated a remake or a reimagining rather than a remaster. What I'm saying is, Activision could have done less, and they didn't. Isn't that amazing? No? Seriously though, being a fairly recent game that's also a shooter, this could have easily been a straightforward remaster when it's actually closer to being a reimagining. As a result, this feels like a Call of Duty that could have released in the last 3 years. And some people would argue that it's superior to recent Call of Duty campaigns because it just doesn't have the modern bullshit attached. Although Modern Warfare 2019 doesn't have a lot of that filler either, so they're getting back to the good stuff, I guess. Okay, let's get to the meat of this. Everything you're seeing has been captured on an industry standard recording monitor. It's the same one that they use for making game trailers. It's completely lossless, so I recommend watching this in 4K 60 FPS. The remaster is running on a PlayStation 4 Pro and SDR, and since I couldn't find my 360 copy, I ran the original MW2 on PC at max settings in 4K, and even then, wow, this is not how I remember it looking back in 2009. I remember it looking sort of like the remaster. Within reason, with the clutter at least. As you can see, the amount of things they've changed makes wipes almost pointless, so I'm doing a lot of side-by-side comparisons. But it also shows you that they've changed everything, even down to the small details, which is why I can't even do wipes with cutscenes. The FOV's different, the scaling of everything is different, the positioning of the characters, it's all different. They've changed everything, even down to the small details. Take Makarov and his cronies stepping over the bodies. It's a subtle animation that doesn't really call much attention to itself, but it's a great addition that wasn't there before. And my brain lied to me and thought it was. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug, apparently. This remaster is running on the Call of Duty World War II engine. It's not the super nice Modern Warfare 2019 engine, but still, it's nice. Rumor has it this remaster was actually finished a few years ago and has been sitting on a shelf due to mass shootings, which may explain why they didn't use the 2019 engine, although it could have been due to costs, maybe both. Nevertheless, it looks pretty damn good. It's basically been remastered top to bottom, and as far as I can tell, everything's got entirely new textures instead of upscaling old textures. They've introduced physically based rendering, tons of god rays, and all the weapon models are new. Actually, I'm pretty sure almost every model in the game is new. And for some reason, they've added weapon inspect to a single-player campaign. That's great, but what's interesting is how they've modernized Modern Warfare 2 to be in line with modern Call of Duty and all their quirks and features in order to be more palatable to the tastes of modern gamers.
Remember, no Russian.
They've basically changed everything and put a surprising amount of thought into doing so. There's new layouts to the environments, almost everything is placed a little differently. Even the width of doorways has been changed. Buildings, cityscapes. They removed the bus that was adjacent to the sidewalk for some reason, I'm not sure why. And that's why it was so cool to go back and play the original version after, because I thought the shooting range had always looked like this, when it actually looked like this, with like very little set dressing. It's very Spartan and bare bones. They've not only changed character animations and cinematics to be more cinematic, but they've added ones that didn't even exist before. They've gone through the entire campaign and done this, not just missions that they may have considered lacking. Take the tutorial, for example. The translator is way more animated. He's translating the hell out of this demonstration. It almost looks like he's doing sign language. Every character in the original Modern Warfare 2 was more static. They just did not move around that much. I don't know if that was a budgetary reason, technological reason, or if it's just because all games back then were a little more basic. Anyway, the tutorial is a great case study for this. The mission fades into Sergeant Foley turning to face the local unit instead of his original static pose.
Welcome to Pull the Trigger 101. Private Allen here is going to do a quick weapons demonstration to show you locals how it's done.
Here's another example. In the original, Foley just kind of pivots. But in the remake, not only does he turn around, but he walks over to the table and points to the gun that he wants you to pick up. And when you pick the gun up, you actually pick it up with human hands. It's subtle, but this just makes immersion so much more seamless. And this is representative of the entire campaign. Foley even opens the grenade crate and shoves it over to you, which brings us to physicality. Just like you picked up the gun, you actually interact with a lot of things with your hands. They don't even have you just picking up one grenade. No, they've got you picking up multiple hand grenades with this animation. I don't know, they're almost showing off. But the biggest change is when they flesh out missions by adding sequences that weren't there before. Like Private Allen's Humvee getting hit with an RPG to show how he wound up dazed and confused, instead of simply beginning the mission with him waking up dazed and confused. But they even spiced that part up by having the camera zoomed in and focused on the bridge we'll be crossing minutes from now. It gives a great sense of place. Again, it's subtle, but that's why I appreciate its addition. I honestly cannot overstate how interesting it was to have played the remaster without having played the original in such a long time. It blew my mind how much I misremembered Cliffhanger. 2009 was the first year I'd watched E3 live. They demoed this mission on stage. It stuck out to me as next gen. It really stuck out to me. It hyped the hell out of me. This presentation was burned into my retinas. But apparently it wasn't burned well enough because I misremembered everything. The remaster improves a lot. Originally, the entire immersion of scaling this extreme cliff face in this dangerous, inhospitable environment kind of fell entirely on the shoulders of Captain Price's animations rather than your character. Your character just kind of casually walked along the cliff while Price was crab walking for dear life. In the remaster, you actually hug the cliff face wall. You're basically doing the same thing that Price is doing. Yeah, big improvement. However, something that was just as cool in 2009 was scaling the wall with your ice picks. They nailed that the first time around. They also nailed Price's badass save. Which they cleverly subverted in Brazil a few missions later. As a whole, the environments are vastly improved, not just in terms of graphics, but in terms of ambience. In Cliffhanger, it kind of feels like you're in The Thing. The snowstorm is much more of a consistent blanket instead of the PlayStation 1 era fog of war effect from 2009. If I had any negatives about the remaster, it's probably the PlayStation 4 exclusivity until April 30th. Honestly, it sucks. Considering the quarantine going on, it really sucks. But they signed these deals well ahead of release dates, so it may not be an intentional dick move. That being said, timed exclusivity can gobble my crank. The other negative I have is a total nitpick, but I've noticed that gradually over the years, everything's become more samey in the Call of Duty universe. Sure, they've gone to space, but it feels like they've got a Call of Duty guidebook that the writers, artists, and developers need to strictly adhere to. Although Modern Warfare 2019 has a lot more character to it, so maybe that's changed. But take a look at the most nitpicky nitpick ever. It's so small, so inconsequential, but I don't care for how they've changed Makarov's mugshot. He looks like an Ace Combat character. Little touches, like him looking up and to the left of the camera, have been replaced with this dead-eyed, knockoff Metal Gear portrait. His ratty hair, they've replaced with generic Action Man hair that a dozen Call of Duty characters have. This is one of the reasons why I'm hesitant toward the inevitable MassiveG remaster. But yeah, no Spec Ops definitely sucks. Aside from being pretty nostalgic for this game, I did find this remaster to be more interesting than most. $20 without Spec Ops is a little steep. I think 15 would have been great. But yeah, it's pretty good, and this was a huge game for me when I was growing up, so I wanted to revisit it and make this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to thank you guys for watching this. I really enjoy making videos. I had a lot of fun writing the script for this one. I feel very privileged to have you guys as my audience, and I like to donate to charity as much as I can, and it's thanks to you guys and sponsorships like Raid Shadow Legends that I'm able to do so, and I feel very privileged for that. So I'd like to give another huge thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for being so cool and so generous. And I've got a link down in the description below if you're looking to kill some time in quarantine to download Raid Shadow Legends. Anyway, thanks again. I appreciate you guys, and please stay safe wherever you can, however you can. And until next time, stay frosty.